We had a very historic event in Washington, D.C. with the unveiling of the Norman Borlaug statue. It's Statuary Hall. Um, and then, of course, I had the opportunity to go to a governor's meeting in Oklahoma City, which is chaired by Mary Fallon, the governor of Oklahoma. And she and I visited the, the grove of trees that were planted in honor of the victims of the Murrah bombing. And she was the lieutenant governor 18 and a half years ago. And the governor was out of state at the time, so Frank Keating wasn't able to be there, and she and I planted those trees. So we had the opportunity to visit that and also to visit the memorial at the site of the building, which was very moving. And then, of course, over the weekend, we had a tragic fire here in Des Moines, loss of the Yonkers building. And I think just about everybody has some fond memories associated with Yonkers. I would say that one of my highlights was the Yonkers Tea Room. I remember back when we had 6-on-6 girls basketball, and the governor would get invited to the breakfast that the Des Moines Chamber hosted for all 16 teams. The Sweet 16, the Ralph Zonner Band would play the fight song for each of the schools, and the girls would get up and sing their fight song. And I also went to some wedding receptions and other key events there. So it's a tragic loss. I know the city is committed to the continued revitalization of the downtown, and this is a minor setback, but I'm sure that they will move forward, and and we're very hopeful that the investigation will be able to determine what caused the fire. Okay. Today, I'm proud to say that we are joined by Grant Kimberly, a farmer from Maxwell, director of the marketing research for the Iowa Soybean Association. Actually, it was his parents' farm where Xi Jinping visited in 2012, yes, near Maxwell. Oh.
And continues to be quite a place of interest, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Chinese Disneyland.
Yeah.
We are here today to discuss our administration's steadfast focus on growing Iowa's global partnerships. With 95% of the world's customers living outside of the United States, the Lieutenant Governor and I understand the importance of creating and fostering international relationships to grow Iowa jobs, to raise family incomes, and support our Iowa communities. Nearly every country in the world purchases goods from Iowa farmers and Iowa companies. Our state's top exports are agricultural products, which include corn, soybeans, pork, beef, eggs, poultry, biofuels, and other byproducts such as DDGs, soy oil, and soy meal. With agriculture machinery, we have internationally known companies like John Deere, Sukup Manufacturing, Pioneer, DuPont Pioneer, Vermeer, Kinsey, and the list goes on, that are proud to call Iowa their home, and these companies have been adding jobs significantly in recent years. In fact, more than 1 in 5 Iowa jobs depend on international trade, and we work to grow careers and promote our trade exports. We need to reach beyond our borders to sell our products. Over the past 3 years, our administration has organized and led trade missions to South America, Europe, and Asia. As a result of the trade missions, we've seen companies like CJ BioAmerica locate in Fort Dodge, and they recently completed opening their plant and are in production, as is Cargill. We've seen multi-million-dollar contracts being signed for Iowa goods and services. I think it was $4.3 billion worth of soybeans that were purchased by the Chinese in conjunction with Xi Jinping's visit here in February of 2012. As we continue these efforts, we're here to announce that the Lieutenant Governor will be departing this weekend for a brief trade mission to Thailand. During this trade mission, the Lieutenant Governor and other Iowans traveling with her will have direct conversation with potential buyers of Iowa agriculture products. As the demand for ag products in Thailand continues to increase, especially soybeans and soy meal, we feel her role in this trade mission will help to sell more Iowa goods and showcase the important role that Iowa farmers have in producing crops and livestock that are needed by families around the world. And now I want to turn it over to Lieutenant Governor Kim Reynolds to tell you more about the mission.
Well, good morning, and thank you, Governor Branstad. I'm certainly honored to serve the people of Iowa as their Lieutenant Governor and proud to represent the state that is a leader in agriculture. As I've had the opportunity to lead trade missions around the world, I'm telling you, Iowa brand is so respected for not only the quality, but the safety of the products that we grow and raise right here in Iowa. In fact, I think we all know Iowa ranks #1 in the nation in the production of soybeans, corn, and pigs. Last year, Iowa exported $5.6 billion in oil seeds and grains, and with new markets opening up in Asia, we want to encourage those markets to buy Iowa-grown soybeans and corn. That's why I am pleased to accept the invitation from the Iowa Soybean Association to lead a trade mission trip to Thailand from April 8th to the 10th. The purpose of this trade mission is to encourage and purchase the purchase of soybeans, soy meal, soy oil, and other Iowa-made products. We will be traveling to Bangkok and other surrounding areas in Thailand for 3 days of meetings with industry leaders, site visits to processing facilities, and to talk directly with potential buyers of Iowa soybean and Iowa products. I will be accompanied on the trade mission trip with Kirk Leeds, who is the CEO of the Iowa Soybean Association, Brian Kemp, who grows soybeans in Sibley, Iowa, and with Thailand's population over 69 million, it has the largest and most sophisticated soy food industry in Southeast Asia. And with Iowa farmers producing more soybeans than most of the countries in the world, there is tremendous potential to increase our state's exports. I'm excited to lead a group of Iowans to Thailand, and we are very hopeful of the economic benefits that will result from the trade mission trip. And now I would like to introduce Grant Kimberly to the program to give you a few more details.
Thank you, Governor. Thailand represents an important market for the U.S. soybean and soybean meal industries, and Iowa in particular, as Iowa is the largest soybean producer in the country and the largest soybean meal producer in the country. Thailand has a very robust livestock sector, which creates very strong feed demand. Regarding imports, Thailand imports nearly 2.9 million metric tons of soybean meal and 1.9 million metric tons of whole soybeans. For the last marketing year, the U.S. had a roughly 30% market share of Thailand's whole soybean imports and about a 1% market share of the soybean meal imports. So there's huge growth potential for us. This year, we have already seen soybean meal market share grow to nearly 5%, and we think that's in large part to some of the activities that we've participated in over the last couple of years, including when Lieutenant Governor Reynolds led a trade mission to Thailand in 2012. This potential is evident in the potential for feed demand growth in Thailand is evident through Thailand's production of poultry and aquaculture. The country of Thailand is the world's largest, or the 5th largest aquaculture producer, and one of the top 20 producers of poultry in the world. At ISA, at the Iowa Soybean Association, we see the importance of investing in these trips as we work to strengthen and grow current trade markets. And especially in Asia, we see that face-to-face communication is critical in developing business relationships. They can put a face to the industry. They are keenly interested in how we run our farms and our businesses, and by participating in these trade missions, that helps us grow those relationships and strengthen that demand. While the group is there, they will visit key partners, potential and current customers, including the CP Group, which is the world's largest feed producer. They are headquartered in Bangkok, Thailand. We will also visit Thai Vegetable Oilseed Processors, TVO. They are the country's largest soybean processor. We will also have meetings with other key industry stakeholders in USDA Foreign Ag Service as well. These trade missions are critically important for our industry and for the state of Iowa, and it demonstrates the commitment of our industry by having leaders, high-profile leaders like Lieutenant Governor Reynolds lead our delegation. So we're very excited and hopeful that this will lead to new business opportunities for the soybean industry. Thank you.
Okay, questions on this subject? No questions on trade this morning? Okay. I need some ag journalists here.
I know. I think that
It came out of the administrative It became out of the budget of the different agencies.
So will programs cut?
Well, remember, we inherited a financial mess. We had to make substantial reductions in the size and cost of government. When the Lieutenant Governor and I took office in January of 2011, we were facing $800 or $900 million projected deficit. So we couldn't continue with business as usual. We had to make dramatic changes. We indicated to all department heads there would be no money for salary increases. They'd have to eat that out of their budgets. There would also need to be significant restructuring of government to reduce its size and costs so we could live within our means. And we did that. As you know, we made that transition. We passed the 2-year budget. We put 5-year projections together. We stopped the use of one-time money for ongoing expenses, and departments and agencies responded by doing what needed to be done to get state spending under control.
So maybe I could be more specific. What $110,000 was cut at the veterans home to pay the pharmacist?
Well, I don't know specifically. I do know that the veterans home has been well managed, and in terms of the audits that have been made, they've been complimented on the job that they've done, and they've lived within their budget.
So what was cut in the Department of Administrative Services pay? $167,000.
Michael Carroll told me that they actually saved $720,000. So of that $720,000 savings, part of it went to pay these settlements.
Governor, a week ago you released more of the records.
Well, first of all, let me say, I signed Executive Order 85, which was a clear, significant commitment to openness and transparency. And what it has done, it is, and we have made it very clear, there will be no confidentiality agreements and personnel settlements in the future, and all settlements will be made public when they are reached. I want to see us go further and also require the reasons for the dismissal also to be made public. One of the concerns I have as the chief executive of the state is we do have state employees who have been involved in certain misconduct, elder abuse, child abuse, sexual misconduct. These things are presently confidential and not released to the public. The danger in that is these individuals who may be dangerous or violent can then be rehired by another unsuspecting employer that doesn't know that information. The public has a right to know that, and so that's something that I'm committed to. That's something that's going to require legislative action. The legislature's in session, they have an opportunity to do that. So I want to use this opportunity not only to prevent any of these future confidentiality agreements in settlements, but I want to also make sure that this information is available to the public and is not redacted.
This session?
Yes. The legislature is in session. They have the opportunity to do it.
Governor, go back to my other question, though. I mean, in the past week, we've had a chance to review the settlements. There have been 8 of your department directors that have signed those. It appears that there's a concerted effort within your administration, or at least previous concerted effort for confidentiality agreements.
As I said,
mastermind was behind this.
Well, first, there's no mastermind behind this. These were mistakes that were made contrary to the policy and the commitment of this administration to openness and transparency. That's why I took the extraordinary action of signing an executive order banning this in the future and saying, if anybody now that this is public and that the governor has signed an order and makes it illegal, then heads will roll if that happens in the future. This was done in previous administrations. We're not going to let it happen in the future.
But, I mean, how did 12 of your departments become involved in confidentiality settlements? Was that just happen chance?
Okay, remember the way these things work. An individual is dismissed. They file a grievance. This matter then goes to the Public Employee Relations Board. They oftentimes will appoint a mediator to try to work out the differences. The mediator works confidentially between both the employer and the employee to work these things out. Oftentimes, well, first of all, we did not know about it, and oftentimes even the departments, uh, eventually whatever agreement they reach with the mediator has to be approved. And in some cases, these were just done orally. We, in the future, my executive order spells this out. Needs to be needs to be reviewed by the Attorney General's office, approved by the Director of the Department of Management, and approved by the department head. This was not done previously in this administration or previous administrations, but I think it's something that clearly needs to be done, and that demonstrates our commitment to openness and transparency and stopping these things from happening in the future.
How many cases of elder abuse, child abuse, and sexual abuse are going on that are not being published?
I don't know, but there are a lot of them.
And are some employees still working that have been involved in that?
Well, in some case, and I think your paper reported on one from Toledo who was dismissed, and then because of this process, we were forced to rehire him and pay him back pay. I think the public ought to be aware of all of those instances, and there are some of those instances that have occurred. Now, let me also say, there are a lot of good people that work for state government. We're talking about the exceptions here. There are just a lot of dedicated people that work hard every day to deliver services, and I want to make it clear, I respect and appreciate all of them, but I also think that when we do have these rare instances of misuse or inappropriate actions and people are dismissed, the public has a right to know that too.
Governor, would it be more transparent, more accountable to the legislature to approve a salary bill that doesn't include the increases rather than leaving agencies to lag around with?
That's a legislative determination, and when the state was in financial trouble, the legislature did not approve a salary bill. And so we directed departments and agencies live within the budget, make the tough decisions to read. And I'm proud to say we've reduced, primarily through attrition, the size and cost of government. We're a much smaller government today. I think we're a much more efficient government. And with the changes that we've made with the transparency, we now have a mechanism and through the Executive Order 85 to make this a much more open and transparent process. The legislature needs to, however, make changes in this personnel exemption. It's too broad, and I do understand sometimes people are accused of things that they're not guilty of, and I don't believe it should become public until after a settlement is reached or a determination is made, because otherwise you would have all kinds of accusations being talked about publicly. That is not appropriate. But there should be, once a determination is made or a settlement is reached, it should be public, and the people ought to have a right to know, especially the situation where somebody that could be potentially violent or dangerous or not a good risk should not be hired by another employer.
Last week, there wasn't enough time in the session to change your mind on.
Yes, they're still in session, and the Oversight Committee is going to meet. There's no reason why they couldn't take action on this issue.
Governor, Governor, when the trooper was speeding, you said you didn't know how fast he was going. When the juvenile home incidents happened, you said you didn't know about it. In this case, you said you didn't know about it. Does the buck stop with Governor Terry Branstad, or are other people really?
You bet, and I've taken action.
Are
You bet. The
take
buck stop.
responsibility?
Well, first of all, let me say this. I have taken action on all of these incidents. I am the chief executive of this state. I take my responsibility to protect the safety and well-being of Iowans very personally. And I also believe in openness and transparency, and I've worked very hard to make sure we have the most open and transparent administration. People can make all kinds of accusations, but the truth is, I know my responsibility as the chief executive. I don't know every detail that occurs in state government. When I become aware of it, I then try to get all the facts and then make an appropriate, thoughtful decision in the interest of the people and the taxpayers of the state.
Does the buck stop with Terry Branstad?
Yes, I'm the chief executive.
Governor, you said that there's no, to Jason's question, that there's no kind of mastermind here who is behind this strategy to do these settlements. But why is it then that, so if you did have 12 agency directors who was heading the organization of the settlement, why is it then that there was no communication with them in your office of any sort. So how could it be that broad across and you all not?
Well, that's a good question. You asked that same question to Patty Judge, and she didn't know either. You will get the information. You made the request for the information from the previous administration. I understand the Department of Administrative DAS is in the process of getting into that information. You will see this is something that has occurred.
I'm talking about yours, though, your administration.
We didn't know about it. As soon as we found out about it, we signed Executive Order 85 to make sure it never happens in the future.
My question is, though, why? How could it
I don't know why it happened. I understand the process, and I understand the process involves mediators that work in confidence, in a confidential relationship, and that the sides go back and forth and work things out with the mediator, and oftentimes, and then because of the personnel exemption in the code, a lot of this information doesn't get out. I don't think that's right. I believe the public has the right to know this information once a determination is made or a settlement is reached, and that's where the legislature has an opportunity to build on what the action I've already taken by passing legislation to make sure these things are no longer, these personnel matters are no longer kept confidential once a settlement or a determination is reached.
Governor, you're meeting with some, we've heard that you're going to be meeting with some parents, children who have epileptic seizures.
Right.
They're going to request that you do something in regards to allowing them to use cannabis oil or something like that. Are you going to change your position on this issue?
Well, I have empathy for people who are dealing with medical issues with their children, and I have met with many groups. I met with a group that has concerns about breast cancer issues. I met with a lot of different groups that have concerns about different health issues. And so I will meet with them and listen to them. I also have concerns about protecting the public against abuse of controlled substances. And we've had some violent, dangerous things that have happened in our state because of that. And I want to make sure that that is taken into consideration as well.
Governor, one other question. You've been very critical of Braley for going down to Texas and speaking to these attorneys. You went down to Texas yourself and raised money. What did you tell people down there? Why did people down in Texas want to give you money?
Well, first of all, as you know, my commitment is to economic development and creating jobs in Iowa. And Texas, Governor Perry has been very successful in that. We don't agree on every issue, but we certainly agree on the idea of reducing the tax and regulatory environment and bringing more jobs here. And we do agree on things like tort reform, which Texas has done. Now, he's down in Texas bragging about the fact that he's fought tort reform for 30 years and pledging to these trial lawyers that he will be their representative in Congress, and he's raised over $1 million from them. Well, he's raised a lot more money than I have from out of state. But most importantly is he is attacking Iowa farmers and Senator Grassley and saying that Grassley, because he's not a lawyer, could not serve as chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Well, Grassley's got a lot more common sense than Bruce Braley ever had. And I think he represents Iowa and Iowa values. And I think the people of the United States would be very fortunate to have Chuck Grassley as chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Well, what did you tell the people? What were your
I told them I was for economic development, creating jobs, and that I respected what Governor Perry done in that. And I talked specifically about tort reform and how I was for it and how I've seen what it's done in Texas. Texas passed significant tort reform. The result is they have more doctors in rural areas and the costs have gone down. They've been able to do a better job of keeping physicians here. This is something that I think we need, and it's something that Congressman Braley is proud that he's fought against for 30 years. It shows he's out of touch with Iowa and what we stand for.
Would you like to see the Iowa legislature doing something similar to tort reform?
Oh, I would love to, and I've recommended it, and last year we came real close. The House passed it, it died in the Senate right at the end of the session.
Getting back to Kay's questions about the line items, does it bother you that these payments didn't show up transparent in a budget that was presented to you and to the government?
Well, this is first of all, remember, we passed the budget in advance. And these things happen during the fiscal year. However, the auditor's office is now going to request that these individual items be included in the audit reports. When you look at, well, of course it's after the fact. You don't know when you put a budget together who might be dismissed and who, first of all, I would point out, in most cases where we've had people that have contested their dismissal, they have not been successful. Most of them have been dismissed. Most of the, what do you call it? Most of the grievances, if you look at the chart I distributed last week, most of the grievances are dismissed. Some of them go on to be heard by a mediator and get settled at that point. But we gave you all of the statistics and all the information on that. And only a very small percentage had confidentiality agreements. But this is where I think is absolutely wrong. There should be no confidentiality agreements. There will never be in the future. These did occur in the past, in previous administrations as well as this. They're wrong, and I'm going to see to it they never happen again.
Governor, the Board Register filed 2 different lawsuits this past week against some of your agencies for records. One of them involved tasers in regard to a case that has been closed. We've requested records that include police reports that are standardly open to the public, and also taser records themselves of the actual weapons. Is this a concern for you that we have a state agency that says that even though the case is closed, that these records are to forever be closed?
Well, I don't know the details on that. I do believe that we need to try to get as much public information as possible on all of these matters. But I'm more familiar with the other case where the other case involving the board.
The video of Toledo.
Right. And I understand the situation there because of my previous job at Des Moines University. I know that health records and health treatment are things that are confidential and are protected. So tax records, health records, and things like that, I understand. And I also understand why if somebody is accused of something and then exonerated, that information shouldn't be. But once you have a settlement or once a final disposition, I don't see why that information shouldn't be public.
In the case with Toledo, do you believe that the security video is part of the health record?
This is what the board has determined. The board has determined that this is a juvenile that's it's a troubled child, and they don't want the identity of this child made public because of the harm that it could be to this person. And this was part of the treatment. Now, you can say mistreatment, but whether the treatment was appropriate or not is not what is important here. It's the identity of that child and protecting that child from being further harmed.
Governor, could you just ask you about the new leadership of the Republican Party? Do you support the new leadership?
Well, I intend to work with the new leadership. I'm committed to helping elect all Republicans, and I'm encouraged about the fact that in 2014 we have a great chance to not only win the governor and lieutenant governor's race, but other state offices, congressional, the Senate seat. I think we have an excellent chance to win the Senate seat and win control of the Iowa Senate and win more seats in the House of Representatives. I want to lead the whole team to victory, and I intend to work with whoever's in leadership position in the Republican Party, and we want them to work with us and to work for all the candidates.
Do you support the current new leadership?
I intend to work with the leadership that is chosen by the Central Committee.
Governor, to deal with the personnel exemption as you're looking at legislation, is that going to require opening up chapter 20?
No, that's a different section of the code.
And then my other question is, do you anticipate possibly when you come with your budget next year, the legislature, that you might expect some of them to say, well, he's budgets are obviously too high, or they wouldn't have been able to afford some.
Well, the truth of the matter is we get the other complaint. We get the people that say, oh, you should be spending more. And the truth of the matter is we came here with a mission to reduce the size and cost of government, make state government more efficient and accountable. We've made great progress. Iowa has gone from a projected deficit and bad budgeting practices to our state auditor now being chosen to be the chair of the Government Accounting Standards Board for the whole country for the good work he did with us. And the state of Iowa is recognized as one of the 2 or 3 best managed states in the country. The budget is balanced. We have a significant surplus, and I think that shows we made great progress, and I'm proud of that fact. And I'm always willing to look at additional things we can do to make government more efficient and accountable. And I expect departments to always be scrutinizing and looking at how they can find better and more efficient ways to deliver services in our state, and to do it in a more open and transparent way and in a more efficient way.
In terms of bad budget practice, what could be worse than agencies hiding payments?
Well, that's not been done, and it won't be done. This information has been made public, and with my executive order, you will now be able to get it instantaneously online as soon as the settlement is reached. I can't think of anything that is more open or transparent than that. That's never been done before. We're not even aware of any other states doing that. But I took that extraordinary action after finding out the facts of signing an executive order that not only bans confidentiality agreements, makes sure that all settlement agreements are made public and that they are posted in a way that the general public can get access to it easily.
Governor, I wanted to ask, back to the epileptic children, what in your mind are the dangers of legalizing, criminalizing cannabis oil?
Well, I know what the governor of California has said about what has happened in his state, and they have a lot of unintended consequences. The governor of Colorado has also indicated that. Now, these are the 2 states that have much more open situation with regard to marijuana, and I don't want to make the mistakes they made. That's why I think we need to be very thoughtful and very careful. I'm empathetic of the people that have medical problems, and I want to see us be able to address those in an appropriate way without creating problems for drug abuse by people that are not people suffering from diseases.
Thank you, Governor.